Hello, everybody. My name is Natasha Phipps with Phipps Real Estate Group and CIR Realty here in Calgary, Alberta. I am an investment specialist realtor as well as a real estate investor, and we just love real estate investing around here. So we like to do these interviews and topics to talk to real estate investors as well as industry experts who I'm joined here with today. But the goal of these interviews is to give you some things to think about, some nuggets of knowledge, and as well as just tell people stories along the way. There's so much to learn from one another. And I couldn't be more excited today to be joined here by Kendra Furman of Design Gal Interiors. Is that right?
Yes, that is. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So, as I said, we kind of want to get to know you. We want to know a little bit how you got into this field. So you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. That'd be wonderful.
So I actually have a background in teaching elementary school. And when my children were born, I decided to step back out of that, and I subbed. And a few years ago, I kind of thought, I really like decorating and staging and putting rooms together, and I should really look into that. So I actually went and took the courses at Mount Royal University to become a certified interior stylist. And I started my business probably about a year ago.
Awesome.
I've kind of just dabbled, and I'm just getting really into it now. Set up my Instagram and Facebook a couple months ago, and I've been kind of learning all about that and stuff. So yeah. And as far as investing, my husband and I became Keysfire members in 2019. And we bought our first property or properties. We actually bought an 8-plex in Edmonton last spring. So we're just kind of dove right in, and we're learning all about that. And yeah.
Good. Congratulations. You got a lot on the go in both streams of business. So I always like to ask people, like, what's driving this? Is it the kind of the financial freedom that real estate brings? Like what was attracting you to real estate?
Absolutely. So I always said to my husband, like, we should have rental properties, but then we always heard those like nightmare stories, like our friends had them, and my sister-in-law had one, and it was just a nightmare. And so we kind of were like, ooh. And I actually was on Facebook one day, and the ad came up for the Keysfire thing. It was a Scott McGillivray thing. So I was like, you know what, we're going to go to this. And we did, and we went through the whole process. And we just realized, like, we were actually gobsmacked, because we just did not realize all the strategies that there were, all the ways that you could do this. And we didn't realize that so many people were so invested in this investing world. So we just became immediately engaged in this, and we just really wanted to dive in. And so, yeah, we were really excited. And then it just tied in so nicely with what I was going to school for at the time. And I'm just really excited to actually amalgamate the two businesses eventually. So, yeah.
That's so cool. Well, I mean, loving what you do is everything, right? It's so much easier to work through those long days when you love it and you enjoy it. I love that you guys, just jumped in with 2 feet, right? Like you just kind of got to go for it. And you've done a lot in a very short period of time during a worldwide pandemic. So good for you in pushing through all of that, because it's been difficult. I mean, it's been like, pre-COVID, we would have in-person gatherings, and the community is different now. It's still very welcoming and vast. And like you said, it's almost like you're shook how big it is once you get in here. So that's really, really great that you guys kind of just went for it. Now, I think today, I obviously we'll see where the conversation goes, but I would love for you to tell us kind of the value that staging brings to either a real estate investor who's flipping properties or someone selling their own home. Like, I do feel like this is an underestimated aspect of buying and selling real estate. So I would love to hear kind of your perspective on that.
I would absolutely agree with you. I've met a lot of realtors, and most of them just say, yeah, I don't need that to sell a house. So what I'm talking about is like staging a home to sell it. But it is so very important. And it's just something that I think investors should really consider when they are, especially flipping a house. is having a stylist on their team, typically called a stager. It can just make a huge difference in the experience that you have with that sale. And it makes a huge difference for your buyers too. So like your ROI on that. So for every, what I mostly hear from realtors is, I don't want to spend the money on that, or my clients don't want to spend the money on that, because honestly, it is a little bit of an investment up front.
For sure.
There's a lot that goes into it, for sure. There's more than people realize that goes into it. There's quite a few hours behind the scenes. It's not just putting the furniture in the house, but there's a lot that goes into it. There's, the initial consultation, there's feeling the house out, what's going to go in the house best, what do you need in the house, how much do you need, so basically it's a whole design process, and then actually gathering the furniture, loading the furniture, bringing the furniture. So it's a lot. So yes, absolutely, I do understand that it is an investment up front, but for every $100 that is invested in staging, you stand to gain an ROI of $400.
Yeah.
So it is going to get paid back to you. Sure. Another stat that I have is your typical sales price will go up by anywhere from 5 to 17%. So I mean, wow, if you're going to be getting offers overpriced or over asking, it's just like a non-brainer to me. Why wouldn't you stage this?
Yeah. For any of our flipping clients or investors, it's like that's, I always say, just put the staging in the budget. Put it in your, just like you do everything else. It's the cost of doing business. You need that end user to have that experience and feel comfortable in the home and envision themselves in the home and know how to use it. So the thing about flipping is, you're not just looking at it as a, rental property in terms of what you're doing. It's you have to think as an investor, but then also as a consumer, you have to think about both sides of it. So that's huge. And there is a lot of work. The other thing that people don't think about is even just the staging consult with people's own furniture or what they may already have. I always offer that when I list. Staging consult is included. So that because then the stager come in and we'll give them a list of what to do, what not to do, what to keep out and what to put away. Do you offer a similar service?
Yes, I absolutely do. So I offer it so I can just come in and have a conversation, or I can come in and have a conversation and then afterwards go and do a report and a checklist for the homeowner to go through, which I find is super valuable for people. A lot of people have pretty good stuff, but they either need to lay it out differently. Most people just need to put a lot of stuff away, a lot of personal and things that they love, but obviously other people aren't going to. Sometimes there's paint recommendations, or if the flooring is really bad, I could say, it would be worth the investment for this. So I can do that for sure. And then I can also go in and with a client like that and actually stage using what they have, and maybe bringing in a few pieces of artwork or accessories or things that they don't have, that just kind of add to their property and highlight it as best as possible for them.
Yeah, I think that is a hugely underutilized service. It makes such a difference. And how nice for a seller to have a to-do list, so that they're not thinking, okay, should I do this, should I do that, or they're not worrying about it. And I really like the hybrid model you mentioned as well. So just for everyone to know, and you mentioned color consultations, a stager, like you said, a stylist is not just bringing in furniture. It's all about the whole design process, and there's so much value there. So paint is a huge one. I'm not good at choosing paint. So always get that professional opinion. Yeah.
Paint is actually one of the trickier things in the design world, for sure. And it does take some definite thought, because there's always undertones in paint.
Yes.
And so I have a process when I'm sampling paint and kind of how I go through it to make sure that it's something that's going to work in the space. So that's something I can definitely do too. And I can just do that in people's personal homes too. If you're maybe not selling, maybe you've just moved in, maybe you have clients, if you're a realtor and you have clients that have just moved into their property, and they're you know what, I know we bought this, but it needs some work, and I need somebody to come in and just kind of tell me what I should do to improve the place. I can help with that too. So
absolutely. So from an investor standpoint, I mean, I think the value is huge here. What you're choosing to put in a property for, especially for an end user to flip it, or a tenant, like you don't have to make those decisions yourself, because you're probably not as experienced as Kendra is, or have the eye or the interest. Like, it's certainly not me. So find whoever, like we always talk about this, find whoever is the best person for the job, and let them do it. It's going to be way better. And it makes you money and saves you time and is well worth the money. So yeah, I am completely on board with this service as well. And I actually had a stager friend of mine here today to help me choose paint on my trim, because I'm getting new windows put in, which are going to be like a stark white, and our house is in the 90s, from the 90s. So our trim is kind of creamy. So it's like, how do I do all this? Right. Like, I see houses all the time, but I'm still not, this is not my expertise. Right. I'm the expert. So that's huge. And again, work it into the budget like anything else.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
You mentioned kind of marrying these kind of things together. Like, what is the kind of the vision for Design Gal and with your investment stuff? Like, I'd love to hear the plan that you have for that along the way.
Well, I think it's a little bit down the road for us, but because like right now we have new builds, and we're continuing to look at new builds for our investment side. But eventually, what I would really like to do is actually start doing the flips ourselves, and doing my own designs and showcasing it in our own flips for sure. That really excites me, because then you really can just take everything down to the studs and just totally create something from nothing, basically. So that really excites me. So I really like the whole process. Like it's not just the furniture staging for me. I like to go in and choose materials and the paint colors and picking everything, and then right to the actual staging and putting the accessories and all that stuff together.
For sure. Cool. Well, that's really exciting. So the investment strategy, you did new construction. Let's talk about that. I mean, that's a very common strategy to go into, and there's a lot of pros for new construction. Is it complete yet, or is this just still being built?
Yeah, no, it's complete. We actually, I don't know quite how we did it. A deal must have fallen through for somebody, but we managed to buy a building that we were actually able to tenant within a few months. So
wow, wonderful. So how was that experience? Tell us about that.
Oh, well, we're learning. We're learning about tenants. That's been very interesting. So we have a really great property manager who's kind of holding our hand and leading us through this as we kind of learn. Going from zero experience to taking on 8 tenants is, it's a little bit, but I think it's been really good experience. We've had some issues, like I think most investors you're going to find with tenants, but nothing that we can't solve. So yeah, it's been good that way.
Love that.
Yeah. And with the new build, I mean, that's always great, because there's that warranty at the beginning. So it's a little bit of a, cushion for us. We have about a year. If anything major goes wrong, we've got that time. But there's some frustrations with it too. Like, we have some tenants getting upset because there wasn't grass until September, right? Yes. And some of them have moved in March, and there was no grass, and they've got dogs, and so I am kind of worried, like, what's our flooring look like in these buildings? But now there's going to be grass and fences, and so it's just been a bit of a process. So that's something to remember if you are buying new, is that some things are under your control, just like with an older building. So
yeah, the first year, I always say new construction, the first year is kind of like when most of your, at least probably for the next, 5 or so years, like that's when the headaches are, because you're right. The area needs to get landscaped, the fences have to be built, decks, whatever else has to be completed. And their tenants get annoyed for sure, because they don't want to wait. So we dealt with that too this year a lot, very much, there's only so much you can do. So tenant management and trying to provide value in other ways as much as you can is good. Like, stay on top of it, stay in communication with your property manager to see if there is anything you can do that might just smooth things over in the short term. Right. So, but that's huge. Going from 0 to 8 that's, you just like went right for it.
We did.
Great.
We did, and we're looking at some more big projects. So
good.
That's kind of how we do it, but
So is the goal long-term buy and hold? Like, how did you guys choose the strategy? Yeah.
Yeah, but long-term buy and holds. And we're looking for properties that cash flow, right? So
Yes.
our goal is to eventually both be full-time investors, and then I would also continue on what I'm doing with my staging and decorating. But that's kind of our goal. So that's what we've been working towards. Yeah.
Wow.
My husband still works a full-time job and I work part-time, but as something else. But
Yeah.
but
The
that's
day
kind of the
job.
goal, is so that
Yeah.
I don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I'm really excited that I've just decided to jump full in with Design Gal and get it off and running here. So yeah.
Absolutely. We were, Kendra and I were both at an in-person conference a couple weeks ago, ladies conference in Canmore, and Kendra did an amazing presentation on her services and the value that she brings. And I know you're going to kind of hit it out of the park with your business, and you're just jumping in with both feet, which is awesome, to the investing space. So I have no doubt you'll be rid of that day job whenever you want. But tell us about, I'd like to hear the process. If I'm an investor, say, because I do get a lot of clients where they ask me questions like, they're scared to over renovate or under renovate, or, you know, like they'll ask me things like about the end user in a certain community or price point. I assume you'd be able to help with that, right? Like, because a very common mistake is over renovating, and people spend way too much money and go crazy, like with all kinds of things that is not needed. I would suggest to people to get Kendra involved, like right at the beginning of the process, not at the end when you're just getting furniture, right?
No, absolutely. If you're doing a flip or you're doing a burr, please call, because yes, yeah, I can definitely help you with material selections, and material selections can be very daunting, especially like for a rental. Like you said, you don't want to over renovate, but you also don't want to be putting in materials that are going to fall apart or not be able to take the abuse, right? You also want to put in materials that are attractive and trendy, but not too trendy, because you don't want to be renovating in 5 years because people are like, oh, this looks outdated now.
Yes.
Right. And those trends move super fast. So, well, it's nice to kind of put in that kind of thing, and you think, oh, my property looks so great. And it does. In 5 years, that feature wall is not going to be the thing that you wanted.
Yeah.
Or people want anymore, right? So keep it simple, but yeah, add some of those little personal touches. So like if you're going to do a feature wall, for an example, in a rental, maybe it's just a slightly different color. Or and there's some like if you're thinking like countertops, for example, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, laminate's good. And maybe it is if you've got really great tenants and they're not going to put a hot pot on your laminate and that kind of thing. Yeah. For me, I'm all about the stone. But if you don't want to spend the money on real stone, there's some really great man-made stone-like products on the market now that give you the same look, but aren't going to cost you as much. So yes, I would love to come in and just help people with their renos, because we can pick out the paint, and it's way easier for me to do the whole design from the very beginning than to kind of come and piecemeal it together after somebody started something, because you don't want to be spending money starting something and then backpedaling and having to redo either, right? So
100%. Very, and like you as the investor or the flipper will learn so much in Kendra's expertise. So absolutely, like, use this service. It's not necessarily, you know, the investors or the flippers, you know, best use of time for them to be choosing every material and making all that thing when they're probably slower and may not know what they're doing as much. If they've done dozens of flips, then maybe, but you know, like, again, use your time wisely and use other people's time wisely, what they're best at and what their time is going to be most effective. Trendy things in flips always make me nervous, because it's like half the people love them, half the people hate them, or and it just causes that divide. So you have to be very careful. You have to be current, but not too specific.
Yeah,
right?
You don't want to be too personal in a flip either. You really want your flip to stand out, but not be too personal to what your decor style is, right? Because then again, you're going to run into that problem if it's too personal to what you would have done in your own dream home, for example. like you said, somebody else going to come in, they're not really going to love it, and then they're going to want to change it. Like I was just talking to an investor the other day. She said that they'd done this flip and they had a designer come in and they did this really nice feature wall, and the buyers came through and told them, we're going to rip that out. Right. So how disheartening for the person doing the flipping that they just put all this money and effort into this wall, and then somebody says they're going to rip it out and do something else. So it's a really kind of fine line of making it trendy and attractive, but not too personal or too trendy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have two things to add there. I agree with you on the countertops. I do not like laminate countertops. I don't really care. Like it is, obviously stone is more money, but you're right. There's some good, like kind of in between versions now, but you always want to think who you're trying to attract as well. Like most of my clients, at least, are looking for, like decent tenants, and they want people who want to live there. And so think about where you would want to live. Like even if you're renting a 1-bedroom apartment, like you still want to look nice. So I'm with you. I think that is a really, really good piece of advice. And laminate countertops, like I've seen them 6 months later destroyed, like completely destroyed, because people cut on them, they put hot things on them. Like you can stain and stuff stone, but not nearly as delicately as laminate counters. So 100%. And then the other thing is, because you're a real estate investor and you have your design experience, that is a unique skill set. Not every designer, like just because you hire a designer does not mean they're thinking about things like a real estate investor. No different than a realtor, an investment focused realtor. So I don't know, like we hear it all the time, but it's always a good reminder. Every single trade or service, if they can have an investment background, like if you're an investor, will, speak tenfold, because I would imagine most designers out there, they're designing for the homeowner, right?
That's right. Typically, yes, I would agree with you. In fact, I have yet, and I haven't been in the investing world as long as you have, Natasha, but I haven't met anybody else who's doing both yet. Who's an investor and a decorator, stager, stylist. So please, like for sure, that's like hit me up, because I do think like that. I'm also absorbed in the networking world of the investors, right? So even if I'm not doing my own flips yet, it's definitely something I'm hearing about. I'm talking to people who are doing them. I'm listening to what, I did this and whatever, right? So yes, I'm definitely involved in both worlds. And I think it would be super valuable for people to, and like you said, I can just come in and consult too. If you are really set on doing this yourself, but you just want a little bit of guidance, absolutely. I can just come in and kind of give you that guidance that you're looking for, and just so that you maybe don't make those mistakes of over renovating or under renovating in some cases, right? So
exactly. Take the consult. You can kind of, choose, but get a consultation, make sure what you are planning makes sense and is not too trendy and not too much or not enough. Like, especially if you're flipping, if it's a luxury area, you need to know who your competition is. So again, like we say it all the time, but investor focused everything. And I think, even prior to today, but I don't know anyone who does both now that I'm thinking about this. So I think that's huge. So we found your corner of the market, and we're just going to, this is your slice here, because I think it's a huge opportunity. And for BRRRRs or, and a BRRRR, it's very important how the property refinances, and appraisers, they can be influenced by what their eyes see, what you tell them you're doing, how excited you are about the project. All of those things are important. So yes, I love this idea. And we're going to add this to our investor focused team list that we have, because I think that's so valuable now that I'm just me too. I'm working through this with you, because it doesn't come up. People aren't kind of talking about it. So I love this. I think it's such a big service, but thinking back on so many of my clients, this could have saved them big time. Just taking that extra step and doing it the right way. So that's very cool.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Sorry, do you have something to add?
No, I don't remember what I was going to say.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were going to say something. So that's great. What kind of design trends are you excited about? Kind of like as a fun kind of little piece to talk about. What's happening out there in the world right now in the design world? I saw that this deep green is the color of the year. And I actually saw it on your Instagram here today, but tell us about that. what do these colors of the year influence for us, and what should we do with them?
So colors of the year really influence like a lot of things, actually, more than just paint colors. They influence the colors that are going to be in accessories. So
Yes.
pillows, carpet, any floral stems, that kind of thing. They also influence like your clothing. Like it's like really quite a big deal, the color of the year. Chairs. I'm actually super excited about the moody colors that are coming out though, because like white, which is trending right now as well, but the moody colors just kind of, they add that pop of color that you need to kind of make the white not so stark, but they go so well with so many things. So you can add like a bright pop of color with it, and it's not going to clash with it when it's that kind of darker, almost black, moody color. That one that you're talking about on Instagram, I'm so excited about. Like, I'm going to reveal here, we're just kind of finishing it up, but I'm going to reveal the before and the after, and it's just and all we did was paint one wall, and it's just, I just like
love before and afters. That's like the most exciting part. And like you said, the accessories, that's an easy way to like add some trend, like with cushions and carpets, without necessarily committing to the whole color if you're not even sure about it yet, and you're not ready to paint that wall, or you're worried you won't like it in a year or two or something. Like, accessories are amazing.
Yes, and pillows are my jam. I love pillows.
Yes.
I change them constantly on my couches to go with like the seasons or just my mood. But that is how I actually add in color. So I actually didn't have a lot of color in my materials, like on my walls or anything like that. But I add the pop, like you can see behind me, I got like bright yellow, but it's all black and white.
Love it.
That's how I add in color, because I love color, but I have a super hard time committing to one color. So I just don't. I just put it in my accessories. So everything is super neutral, and then I just add in those pops. But like the client that I was just talking about, she loves color. So she wanted everything to be color. And so I kind of toned her down a little bit, but we put in colored chairs in there, and like the moody colored wall, and we've got really bright colors coming in. So I'm really excited about this transformation. But that's something that people can do. And honestly, when I walk into most people's like homes, if I'm looking at like a personal home, it's something that a lot of people don't have. And it's, as soon as you add in some of those throw cushions, throw blankets, lamps are a big one. It can change the whole feel and dynamic of a room. So it's super important. It's not just the materials that you pick. Like I talked about at when I did that presentation at the event that we were at, I talked about empty rooms. I don't know if you remember that part where they talked about how they just feel naked, and they literally do feel cold. And a thing to consider, even like in flips and burrs, is when your room is empty, it looks small.
Yes.
And if they're already small, it makes it so hard for people to visualize how they're going to fit their furniture in there. And most people are bringing furniture with them. They're not going out to buy new furniture. So making it so that they can see like the king size bed fits here, or a sectional fits here, or a big comfy couch or whatever, they'll know if I'm gonna have to sell my couch, or I need a bigger one, that kind of thing. Right? So it makes a huge difference for visualization.
Huge. So often we're out showing properties, and unless I actually get out the tape measure, which we do sometimes, because we're like, I don't think my king size, that's often a common one, king size beds, right? People who have a king bed are not going down to a queen. Like, that's not happening. I'm with them. But it feels like so much smaller, the perception when there's nothing in it. And it, like you said, it also feels colder. It just doesn't feel cozy or comfortable, like you could hang out in it. And if you're trying to sell a property, like, you want people to want to linger and hang around and kind of imagine themselves in the space. So that is a huge one, like the size of furniture, and kids' rooms too. Like, often they'll stage the master maybe, but then they leave the kids' rooms and they look tiny because they're usually smaller anyway. And it's like, oh gosh, like we can't fit anything in here. But I measure, it's like, well, it's the same size as like my daughter's room. Like, you can, I know you can, but it looks so tiny. So just takes away all those question marks.
Yeah. You can confirm this for me, but I read a stat that said, it was actually from the Realtors Association. I don't know
which one.
but it said that for most people that are looking to buy a home, they'll spend about 6 minutes walking the home. If the home is staged, they could spend up to half an hour to 40 minutes because they are visualizing themselves in it, right? So I don't know if it's going to be exactly 40 minutes long or whatever, but they're going to spend more time there. And like you said, they're going to be thinking about, oh, I can see like this could be little Johnny's room, or oh, this would be a great little play area because look, it's staged like a play area. Oh, we can have the whole family for Thanksgiving because look how much space is in here. Like this table, we can stretch it. And so like it really just helps. Like I'm a visual learner too, and most people are, and they need to be shown. They need to be shown what they cannot see. As investors, like I have this comment a lot. Yeah, but we're looking for the ugliest home when we're doing a flip or a burr. Absolutely you are. But at the end, you want it to be the nicest home on the street, right? That's what you're looking to do. So
most end users do struggle with that visualizing, and just most people do, period. Like most of us want to see it. And so very commonly, and I like the you know, like about the kids and that, like, this is why people love show homes, because show homes, like, you're like, the kids go find their bedrooms, they go run upstairs and they know where they're going to be. And like, kids are great because they just like tell you like it is. And that's why they love show homes, because they go, here's my play area, here's my, you know, my brother's room and my room, and they can see it. And like, kids are just like, you can believe what they say about how something feels. And a nicely staged home will give that exact same feeling as a show home will, where you're showing as much as possible what you could do with this property. So I think that is huge. And I think very often forgotten in the investment space, because we're often so much about like dollars and cents and only spend costs what we need to. But I fully know to be true, even from the properties that we've sold and built, that staging or not staging, it absolutely makes a difference. Huge. And if your budget is a little tight, you could just do certain rooms. Like you don't have to necessarily do every single room in the house. If you know, like, do the major rooms, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like typically any staging that I've been involved in, it's going to be the main floor. So the kitchen, dining area, and living room, as well as master bedroom always gets done. And like you said, oftentimes people don't do a kids area, but do at least one. Yeah. Because then it shows what will fit in those smaller rooms. For sure. And like an office area is always a good thing too, especially with so many people working from home right now. It's really good if you can highlight there's somewhere that they can work, and how it can be private, or if that's something that they're going to need to think about. Really
work from home, homework area. Like homework area is a big one. Like both my kids are homeschooled now, but we're just lucky that we had a spot kind of at the top of the stairs. I could put 2 desks, and I basically just made them their space there. But when you're flipping or doing something to change a property, if you can make a work space, like that's everything right now. Zoom rooms, I call them too. Like, where's my Zoom room?
No, for sure. Like, and I don't know when it's going to go back. And for some people, like some companies are like, hey, we actually don't need to pay for these buildings that we're leasing, just work from home. So I know like a lot of companies aren't going back. So going forward, I think that is something that flippers need to think about for sure, is a space for people to work from home.
Absolutely. What is your Instagram handle? Is Design Gal Interiors, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Design Gal Interiors, yeah.
I love the little reels that you're doing. The little, well, the one at the event was the pillow chop one. The rule of 3. Like, make sure you guys go follow Kendra's Instagram, because I love her little reels, and you're doing great at reels, by the way. I just did my first one the other day. It's a whole new thing, right? I do lots of video, but I hadn't used that feature, so I'm also learning it. So you're doing an amazing job. But I love how you're using Instagram to kind of give these little like tidbits of thought, right? There's value to be learned there. And just even these small things like the power of 3, or the rule of 3, like you said, like I kind of forgot about that until you posted that. So thank you for sharing all your knowledge and wisdom to us, and everyone go follow Kendra. So we will put in the description, or actually we will tag you as well, so that people can reach out to you and learn about your services. I usually like to end with one thing. given this, a couple of years ago, you were just getting going. Like I always like to ask people, what, advice would you give people if they're just getting going, they had just done their, first workshop, or maybe not even quite yet? Like, is there any advice you would kind of give yourself going back to 2019?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2019, I was terrified to start this.
Yes.
Absolutely terrified. I needed a big push, but I decided that I was tired of living scared. And I knew that after that first weekend with Keithfire, I knew that there was a whole other world out there that we were not experiencing. And that if I walked away from that, I was going to regret it. So we jumped in. And I'm not going to lie to you, Natasha, we did have paralysis analysis for a while. We did learning, we kept learning, we did some networking, and we just didn't know what to do. And then COVID hit, and we were like, oh, we're not buying anything because people are going to stop paying their rent. Like, if people stop paying their rent. And then we started watching how people were actually making so much progress during COVID, and we were like, all right, we got to get in on this. So when these 8 plexes came up and this one just happened to be available, we just jumped right on it, and we jumped into full feet. So my biggest advice is, even though you're scared, just do it. Because here's my favorite quote. Everything you want is on the other side of that fear. And so, yes, it's super uncomfortable for a while. Well, heck, it's just super uncomfortable always. I'm still uncomfortable in this case.
Scary.
Just putting myself out there. Like, I've always been like, people that know me personally are like, you're doing all this?
That's amazing.
Because I've always been the quiet, shy person, and I usually like sit back and observe. But I know that I want big things in my life. I want big things for my family, and sitting back and watching isn't going to get us there. So just jump in. It's scary, but especially in this world, there are so many people to help you. There are so many people with all their many different expertise, and everybody's willing to help and answer your questions and just be there to support you. So if there's anything that you're going to do that's scary, this is actually one that is probably safe in a way, because you've just got such a network of people.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. And like, I don't think there's anyone who gets into this that doesn't have some sort of fear. Like, we all do. Like, I think people think, oh, so-and-so makes it look easy because of what you see, or they own, 50 properties or whatever. Like, when they were starting, they were scared too, because it is scary. And if it wasn't scary, or there wasn't problems or stress or things, like, everyone would do it, obviously. But all of these problems that most people are worried about have solutions. And like you said, there's a huge community of people that are so helpful, that have, come before you or learned so much along the way, and everyone is willing to help. Like, it's really amazing. So I think that is excellent advice. And I'm so happy you like push through the fear, because it's real. It's absolutely real, and it is scary. It's a lot to take on. I mean, you went from 0 to 8 doors. Like, that's a big deal. So you should be seriously giving yourself serious props for getting through that and coming on the other side, and everything is evolving from there, right? So thank you for sharing that. Very common feeling. I think that people are worried is maybe unique to them. It isn't unique. It is not unfortunate, but it's just the way it is. Like, it's a big deal. So it is scary, but push through it. If this is what you want, you can build the life that you want. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that so much. I know that's really valuable for people to hear as they're just getting going and feeling the same thing. So appreciate you so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. This has been so fun.
It's been awesome. So like I said, we're going to put all your information in the comments below. Please reach out to Kendra and talk to her about her investments or her interior design business. And just use the resources that we have. Everyone's here to help one another. And again, use investor focused, everyone on your team. Investor focused is the name of the game, and this is no different. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much